Jarek Kotomski was born in Kiev in 1985, raised in Poland. Since 2006, he has lived and worked as a photographer in London, and now he resides in Greece. Jarek has worked with a number of travel and fashion magazines and has exhibited his works in London and Warsaw. His first photography book, Children of Zanskar, documents the lives of the youngest inhabitants of Linshed, one of the most isolated settlements in the world. Jarek's first feature documentary in collaboration with director Michal Sulima, entitled Piano to Zanskar, won Best Film at the 71st Edinburgh International Film Festival's Works in Progress competition. His next documentary, Scriabin in the Himalayas, shot in 2015 at the centenary of Scriabin's passing year, will receive its world premiere on the final day of the International Scriabin 150th Festival, which takes place online between the 11th and 13th of November 2022 at 10 a.m. through to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. For more details and registration, you could visit www.artsinsfinitypress.com/Scriabin150. Welcome, Jarek.
Hello.
Hi. So I still remember how moved I was 2 years ago. That was the first time when I watched your trailer of the Scriabin in the Himalayas online. And every time I watched it again, I felt equally emotional. You filmed the concert in a monastery at the peak of the world. What did it feel like, and what inspired you to take on this project?
Thank you, Sherry. What did it feel like? It felt quite extraordinary, and the inspiration actually came because the year before we traveled to that region and we shot our first documentary, Piano to Zanskar. And before we traveled to the final destination where we shot our documentary, we visited the monastery, the Tiksay monastery. It's the largest Tibetan Buddhist monastery in Ladakh, and it's a really, really beautiful place. So that stayed in our memories. And a year later, in 2015, I think early on, around January, February, we were already planning a second trip to the Himalayas. We wanted to visit the village where we shot our documentary again. We wanted to do a little bit, shoot a little bit of additional footage. And at some point, I think my mother mentioned to me Alexander Scriabin and the fact that he had this amazing dream that he wanted a concert of his music performed in the Himalayas. So I took interest, and I didn't know much about Scriabin back then. So I did some research, and I was absolutely astounded with his music and also with the sort of grandiosity of his vision. And then I realized that actually 2015 marked the centenary of his death. So I spoke to Desmond. Desmond was a friend of mine, an elderly piano tuner who was the protagonist of our first documentary. And I mentioned that to him. And we decided we will pay a small tribute to Scriabin and maybe try to arrange a small concert in the Himalayas. And then Desmond told Neil Lachman, the tenor, the singer, and Neil got involved, Cody and Christopher, the two pianists, his collaborators, and suddenly from a small concert, it became something much larger. And of course, Matthew Bengtson came on board as well. So yes, that's basically how it started. It was meant to be a small upright piano somewhere in the Himalayas and a short recital. And it ended up being a full-scale concert.
So was the piano already at the top of Himalayas at that point before you shot? Or how did you actually move that piano all the way up? I mean, you just told us how you found the musicians and how the projects just evolved.
So we thought we had some experience with moving pianos to the Himalayas because that was the subject of our first documentary, and we actually brought an antique upright piano to a tiny village high up in the Indian Himalayas. But for this concert, we needed a full-size grand piano, and the pianists made it clear that they will not settle for anything less than that. No baby grand pianos, no medium-size grand pianos. So believe it or not, up until 5 days before I was supposed to fly to India to organize the concert, we didn't have a piano booked because we spoke to a number of companies. We actually wanted one of the companies, piano making companies, to sponsor a piano for the concert, but the logistic difficulties were too much for them. And eventually, a very kind gentleman from New Delhi agreed to help me, and he called a friend of his who had a Yamaha piano shop in New Delhi and convinced him to lend us a brand new Yamaha grand piano, which is remarkable because this piano had to travel over 1,000 kilometers in a truck on rickety roads, and you know, the shop owner knew nothing about us. I have no idea how we managed to get that piano. So it arrived after a few days. I think it arrived literally 2 or 3 days before the actual concert. And because the concert was scheduled on summer solstice, this date was fixed in stone. We had no flexibility there. And this was the sort of agreement we had with the head lama of the monastery as well. So the piano had to arrive on time. So the pianist only had 1 day to rehearse. So
Wow.
it was all very spontaneous, so to speak.
So it's very lucky that everything just happened so quickly. Yeah.
Yes, I like to use the word fortunate. Definitely.
Well, I've actually organized quite a lot of festivals, so I know what is involved. And yeah, you know, getting the money and the manpower is not easy. Yeah. Was there any like
Yeah.
particularly frustrating or exhilarating moments before the completion of this project and the film itself? I mean, I know it's an ongoing project.
Yes. I mean, absolutely. You know, we had a completely different plan for the whole concert. Initially, we thought we will be able to make it into a special kind of event where we can invite people to attend it, and that they will basically donate money to the project, so that we can actually pay for this spectacle. They will donate money, you know, to have this experience, and we will be able to fund the whole thing. But at some point, the head lama of the monastery, when he heard about our plans, told us explicitly that this concert, he will only agree to allow us to organize this concert on the terrace of his monastery if it's completely free and if anyone can attend. Yes, so our idea of getting some, you know, sponsorship money went out the window very quickly. So that happened, I think, maybe a month and a half before the scheduled date of the concert. And you know, the pianists were already practicing the transcriptions for Neil's vocalises were already done, you know, so a lot of the organizational effort has been already put through. So I made a decision to go ahead with the concert, and we decided to fund it ourselves. Yeah, we had to basically put all our savings forward, and also you know, take some bank loans basically just to fund it. You know, I thought this is such a unique opportunity, a centenary of Scriabin's death. We already have all these wonderful people involved. You know, a French perfumer agreed, famous French perfumer agreed to create a special scent diffusion, you know, experience during the concert, and 2 interactive artists who are building a light installation, you know, to interpret the music in light and color. So I just didn't have the heart to cancel it all. So that was first major obstacle. And then of course, as you would expect, the week of the concert, many things went wrong. I arrived a few days before everyone else, before the musicians. I arrived with the small film crew and a few other people who were helping me with organization. And so we sort of surveyed the terrace of the monastery, and we were making sure that the preparation are going well. And then the entire remaining crew, it was about 12 people, were on another flight, and their flight got delayed. And so they got stuck in New Delhi because they couldn't board a flight to Ladakh. So all of a sudden, I think 2 or 3 days before the concert, I had all those people, flights to Ladakh were sold out, and they were stuck, you know, over 1,000 kilometers away. So again, a little logistical nightmare, but using a combination of trains and favors and whatnot, we managed to bring them to Ladakh as well. And yes, because it was such a last minute effort, many of the things we planned we were not able to realize, which up until today, you know, I regret that some of the things didn't work out as we wanted. And also we wanted to combine all the 5 senses, and I thought that the element of touch and movement could be provided by dancers. And Scriabin, of course, he worked with a famous Russian dancer in an attempt to illustrate some of his piano pieces through movement. And we thought maybe we can convince the head lama to allow us to work with the monks who perform a sacred dance called cham. And we wanted to see if he would agree to work with a famous choreographer from the US, who specializes in documenting cham dances throughout, you know, Tibet and northern India and Nepal, to choreograph the monk to Scriabin's music, of course, with respect to their tradition, with respect to the significance of the dance they perform, and so on and so forth. So this gentleman, he agreed to do it, and the head lama also gave us a green light. And so we had a number of meetings concerning that, and then this gentleman was supposed to arrive a week before the concert to start working with the monks, and his flight got grounded in the States, and so he had to buy another ticket, and he arrived literally on the day of the concert, so he was unable to work with the monks at all. So we had to improvise something the day before the concert, you know, so that they could still come out and at least you know, perform their dance for 1 or 2 pieces of Scriabin. You can imagine how difficult it was for them, because Scriabin's music is not easy even for our Western ears a lot of the time. If you're not familiar with him, for them it was just something absolutely extraordinary, you know. so that part also didn't work out the way we imagined, but yeah, this was we were extremely lucky that we were even able to pull it off in the form in which it happened. So yeah.
So were you particularly pleased with something that worked right? I mean, apart from all these frustrations, and
I mean, look,
actually that came like as a surprise.
I got run over by a car the day before the concert. You know, luckily it was a small car, and I just ended up, you know, my foot got injured. Otherwise, I was fine. So to be honest, I was just glad that I was alive, and I was glad that we managed to organize the concert and film it. Yeah. So I was very happy with that. And of course, all the other details, well, what to do. I'm happy, for example, that the light installation worked out really nicely in the evening part of the concert, and you can see it in the footage. And we actually used Scriabin's color tonal key and a very clever computer program written by my friends, which helped interpret the keys in which the particular pieces were being played in real time, and convert them into colors. So that worked out nice. And the perfume part of the concert, which unfortunately the viewers won't be able to experience, that was extraordinary, because Michel Rudnitska, the famous French perfumer, he invited his friend, and they came with a custom designed machine which was emitting this sort of molecular level thin blade of scent throughout the concert from different combinations which they prepared beforehand, and that really added a lot to the music. So much so that Matthew Bengtson told me that more than once he got distracted by the scent while performing. And of course, I was really happy with the performances, and Matthew's playing was brilliant, and Cody and Christopher played a unique transcription of the first and of the third symphony for piano four hands. As far as I'm aware, at least one of them has never been performed before in this form. And yeah, there were some beautiful, glorious musical moments, definitely.
Yeah. So what have you found out about Scriabin through this journey that, yeah, you find the most fascinating and you would like to share with the world?
Yes, I mean, I found out even more about Scriabin after that journey, to be honest, because when it came to trying to figure out what we actually want to do with the footage afterwards, I dove into Fabian Bauer's biography of Scriabin, which is a wonderful book. And there he sort of opens up a window into Scriabin's mind and heart and soul, you know, parallel to his music. And he also illustrates his life and his evolving thought process through his music as well, when he describes how he composed certain pieces, what they meant to him, what he was trying to express through them. And so I was really fascinated with just the power of Scriabin's creativity and imagination. And I think someone calls him somewhere a poet of mercy, because he would meet his friends, or sometimes you know, just some random people, and casually describe to them, you know, that he's planning, for example, to organize this apocalyptic concert, the Mysterium, yes, which will unite all of mankind, and everyone will sort of ascend some kind of higher sphere of being. But the world is not ready for it yet, so he has to prepare the people, and so he's writing some pieces in order to, you know, accomplish that first. And it's incredible that he had these fantastic ideas, larger than life, and he actually managed to accomplish a lot in musical sense, close to the core of his philosophical and mystical ideas, you know, especially with the third, fourth, and fifth symphony, and you know, with some of the sonatas and so on. So he was an extraordinary musician and a true visionary, and I think he really anticipated the multimedia art milieu that we have today, you know, where all five senses are being stimulated at the same time, you know, and music is not just about description, it's about experience, and with this experience comes fragrance and comes some kind of visual stimulation and so on. And he was really a pioneer in that sense, and I have a lot of affinity to his ideas, and also to his Russian soul. You know, I'm half Polish, half Russian, and he was very important for the Russian people and Russian, let's say, artistic soul of Russia. Yes, even throughout the Soviet times. Yes, where of course they were trying to put a slightly different interpretation on Scriabin, but they were still in awe of him. They didn't agree, of course, with his mystical ideas. They tried to play them down, but still they couldn't resist the power of his music. So I think he was an extraordinary composer and man.
Yeah, I remember him referring himself as the god on several occasions. And
yes, of course, he had this megalomaniac flight of fancy. I think many times he was imagining himself in a creative act akin to a godlike being. Yes, but we give this license to poets and artists. You know, it's fine.
He was born around Christmas time and died in Easter time. Well,
right.
That
right.
was such a coincidence too, right?
How messianic of him! How messianic of him! Yes, exactly.
Yeah. This is I'm a
Yeah.
super fan of Scriabin. I'm giving him this festival. Also, a little bit like what you try to do, combining, because I'm a poet and a musician myself. I'm combining aspect. I think we're just going to dig deep and yeah, trying to solve the puzzle that was Scriabin. And yeah, I wonder what he would have written if he lived for longer, but that we will never know. Yeah.
I wonder too. Someone
Yeah.
once commented that maybe, in his plans for the Mysterium, Scriabin almost pulled the veil a little bit too far, so he was withdrawn, prematurely, because really he was aiming as high as it is humanly possible, I think, So we will never find out how the Mysterium would have sounded, but it's wonderful that we have some remnants and impressions of it. There are some passages in the Prometheus and also some sketches of the prefatory action and some words that he wrote for the Mysterium. Yes. Well, maybe one day we will hear his music in another place. Who knows?
Well, thank you very much for your time, Jarek. I'm really looking forward to watching this film at the International Scriabin 150 Festival, or at least one version of it. I think maybe you were several different versions, because how long was the entire concert?
The entire concert, I think, was just over 3 hours. It was divided into two parts: the day part, performed by Matthew Bengtson, and then the evening part with Neil Lachman, Cody Green, and Christopher. And I think overall it was, just over 3 hours. But the version we will show will be around an hour and a half long. Yes, and for the conference we have prepared a pretty pure edit of the concert without without color grading, and it's not mastered yet, but it will be the world premiere really of the event. So I'm looking forward to it too.
Yeah, that's really exciting, and I hope you every success at future film festivals with this extraordinary documentary. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Sherry. Thanks a lot.